Hello, amazing business owners, entrepreneurs, photographers, all of the creatives that are joining us today. Welcome back to Business Straight Up, the podcast for any creative business owner who wants to actually make a living doing what they love. I know when you go into business, it can be so hard to have to wear all the hats. So we're going to talk about some business skills, the things you need to know that you didn't even know that you needed to know. Today's guest is an amazing financial expert, and I am so excited to share her information with you today. Tiffany Bastian works in accounting and bookkeeping, and she has Tiffany Bastian is the owner of Bastian Accounting. She works with photographers to talk about bookkeeping and accounting and taxing and all of the things that so many of us just don't even want to talk about. And the things that we are going to chat about today are not photography specific. So if you are not a photographer and you're like, I don't know if this is for me, Brooke, I promise you there are some crazy, awesome pieces of information in here today. We are going to talk about what to do when your finances are just completely soul-sucking, how to find someone to help you with that, what to really look at to know where you're at so that you can see where you're going. Because if you set these goals and you don't know how to get there, what can you do with that? How can you break it down? We're also going to talk about retirement, something that so many self-employed people don't think about. We get into this mode, we're working on our business, we're doing all the things, and we forget that we don't want to be doing this forever. So today's episode is amazing. If you love it, can you head on over to iTunes and leave a review? I would so appreciate you. And those reviews help me know how I can better serve you. So are you ready to dive in? Let's talk with Tiffany a little bit more about finances and what the heck we do with all of this information. Hey there, awesome people. I am Brooke Summer, and you are listening to Business Straight Up, the podcast for creative entrepreneurs to learn, connect, grow, and build the business and life that they dream of. Welcome, let's get going and dive right in. Welcome back, amazing business owners, entrepreneurs, photographers, any creatives that really want to actually make a living doing what they love, because it is time for the cliche of the starving artist to get kicked to the curb, right? Today's guest is someone that I know is completely on board with that and right on the same page with me. She is a financial expert with a lot to say on the subject, and I am so excited to have her. Tiffany Bastian is the owner of Bastian Accounting, working exclusively with photographers to help them gain control of their finances through accurate bookkeeping and tax information. She's also a mom, wife, dog mom, and total Margarita Snob. And on that note, I feel like we should absolutely have margaritas today. I should have made one for this recording, because for anyone listening, you will be hearing this a few weeks out, but we are recording the day before the election. And anyone in the US knows how stressful today is. So perfect day for a margarita, right?
Well, I mean, 2020.
That's true. There's no rules. No rules. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being here, Tiffany.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
I have so many things to ask you. And as I was preparing for this episode, I was overwhelming myself with all of the possibilities, like just had a huge list. But it happens a lot. First, let's talk more about your journey. What have you worked through to get you to where you are now?
My goodness. Well, I think, I always kind of say that there is, and I think any entrepreneur, anyone listening that's got that entrepreneurial spark, it's like, you always kind of know. And for me, it was like, there is no cubicle like big enough to contain my entrepreneurial spirit. And I think that once you realize that you can take what that is and turn that into something, you're like unstoppable. And, so for me I'm an accountant, like, right. And I think people just think of accountants as like in corporate America, like is it the producers, the scene where all the accountants are just sitting at their desk typing? Like that is not real. That's not me.
The red stapler from Office Space.
Yes. So and of course, like it's not an appealing field to people, but I am so much more than that. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And once I kind of tapped into like becoming a QuickBooks expert. And then even really for a long time, I worked with creatives. I've recently just niched down to photographers, but it's really just realizing that I can do so many more things than like that one little thing that corporate America would have you do, I guess.
Yes.
But
until you die.
yes, until you die and there's nothing to ever gain from it really. So
Right.
for the same amount of money. But the biggest thing is like just really being able to, and actually back to that, that's like you're helping some companies bottom line and
Right.
okay, there's no pride in that. So working with clients the way that we do now, it's like, I get to like see them excel in their business and I get to take something I know and understand and like convey and help them use that to leverage. And it's just like this, it's just rewarding. It is the most rewarding thing. I think every entrepreneur gets to a point too, where they find something they can monetize that they're good at, but then they sort of get stuck in this like, well, now I'm not really happy. I figured that out. But so that fulfilling part is so important. And I think it takes us a while to kind of figure that out. And I know 2020 has been a crap year, but it's been my most fulfilling year. And maybe because I've forced myself to focus on the things other than all the things I can't control. But I think the journey to get here is really self-awareness. And I really reflected and I've really, and done away with perfection and realized like, the clients I love the most, the people I enjoy the most, the people that know me most authentically, all the good and the bad, right? So I think that is the most important thing.
And how much easier is it to be authentic? I feel like that's a buzzword now, but
it is.
Man, trying to be someone you're not is fucking exhausting.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. And at the end of the day, you just, it ruins that, makes that perfection thing even worse because you're trying to perfect something you think people want to see when all they really want to see is you. And if you think of anyone that you can relate to, you're like, oh, I like them because they're so real. Or I like because they cuss, or I like because that's, for me, I have like 5,000 Columbia fleeces. I have every shade of the rainbow. And I just recently had a brand shoe where I was like, this is what we're wearing. This is how we're doing it. Cause this is who I am.
Yep.
It does not change the product or how I can help my clients excel. It's just who I am, but it almost allows you more space to really grow and hone things when you're not worried about all the things you're not.
Absolutely. I know that you and I have talked about this before, and you know where my heart is on this. My best friend recently went through a medical emergency with her husband, and she was SOL when it came time to paying bills because he was the one handling all of that. And I think that a part of kind of connecting to what we were talking about is being authentic. I know for me, handling finances is soul sucking and draining, and I hate it. But at the same time, it's something that I need to be a part of. And I think we all need to step up and be a part of. And I believe so strongly that women need to have their own money. And it doesn't have to be a secret. I'm not saying keep a secret from your partner.
Totally.
So many people hear that. But so many of my students also respond with, oh, no, my marriage is good. It's okay. And I'm like, divorce is not the only reason, guys.
Yeah.
My best friend's husband was in a medically induced coma. There's nothing that they could have done. They couldn't have planned for that. Right. So how do you feel about this? And what would you like to share with any women listening, or maybe any guys whose partners are not really involved or included in the finances?
Well, part of me feels a little guilty because I am the accountant in my family. So I tend to be the person. But a couple things. One is you mentioned it was soul sucking. And I think there are a lot of things that we have to do as adults, right? That I don't want to say like as adults, but the things where we're like, it's soul sucking because we don't understand part of it. And then so it feels like it's so much more than doing it. It's like trying to get it and understand it. And I feel like so creating and learning sort of enough to understand the basics and why can really take down that soul sucking feeling. But I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
The second thing being like, in my scenario, I actually have a Google sheet with like all the logins. I do keep all the information so that it's there. Mostly, for me, because I have to remember it all. But then that way my husband has something that he can reference and know what's going on. But the thing is that I think money scares a lot of people. And I think a lot of things I'm going to say something that'll probably make people cringe, but I feel like money is a renewable resource. There's a million ways to make money.
Yes.
There's a million ways to spend money. And I feel like that there's so many ties to money, like that it's all of somebody's worth, or if they have no money, they have nothing. And it's like money is just a currency. It's like life is so much richer than that. So I really feel like it's empowering when people can understand and take that and realize things, really, I mean, coming from I'll give you a little bit of my story, is like, I started my business and I was super excited and things were going great. I am the accountant and I ended up owing like $25,000 in taxes.
Yeah.
Nothing is, maybe it's the word disempowering than that, and being like,
Tax
what is
bills.
wrong
Yes.
with me? I'm so embarrassed. Like, what, and then realizing, okay, well, I need to come up with a plan. I need to figure this out so I'm never like this again. And this is the same plan I implement with all my clients now, because now I'm in control again. And I feel confident every day. I like know what's going on, where you sit. And it even relates to, even if you have a business and even if your spouse does handle everything, just gaining the control over your business gives you so much insight for growth, for where you are, where you want to go, and how do you get there? What's the gap? You don't know what the gap is if you don't understand that part. And I think, and I think it's just so normal for many entrepreneurs, especially creatives, because they take something that they're passionate about. They also don't really enjoy like the not creative aspect of life, which is totally okay. But they take that thing, they learn how to monetize it, and like, wait, I've got something here. And the next thing you know, it's like 2-3 years in and they're like, oh, wait, what are taxes? Wait, what's going on? Like, because they love it so much. And there's this whole other piece. And it's so, it's very normal, but then to back it up and how much you can take that to the next level when you're like, okay, wait a minute, I understand what's coming in. I know what I should charge based on that because this is what's going out. And then you start to get that, and you can really start from there, especially if you own your own business of any kind. You really need to take that power,
Yeah.
And then that can relate into the rest of your life. But it is, I think people are scared of money, talking about money. I mean, any of it. And I'm not like that, but I also, in a weird way, don't want to make people who are like that uncomfortable. So I still am sort of like, not authentically me when I'm about that.
It's hard to figure out that line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like sometimes we have to separate our self-worth from our financial, whatever it is, whether it's good or bad. Because you had a $25,000 tax bill does not necessarily mean that you're a bad person. It just means you didn't figure that out yet. And guess what? Moving forward, you do.
Yes. At the time, I thought it meant I should jump out the window, but I was like, no. But I was like, okay, we put this on a payment plan. And then I was like, how do I help my clients who are not accountants, even not ever, so, but it's all in the planning. And I think planning is something also that we are very much like, I'm too busy to plan. I'm too busy to stop and figure this out. And it's that mentality that gets us into these snowball things where we're so burned out and we want to rip our hair out.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Personal finances and business finances kind of melt together in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
Because our businesses become the way that we pay ourselves, but so many business owners don't even like really know their financials when it comes to their business. And I told you, to me, it's really soul sucking. But at the same time, when I look at the numbers, I'm like, ooh, hey, I did that. Look at that. That's awesome. Or they might know, like so many business owners might know a little bit, but not really the details. So what are 3 things a business owner must be on top of when it comes to their finances if they want to not only stay successful, but grow even more from where they're at?
So I think, first of all, just having some kind of record keeping. Mm-hmm. So I use QuickBooks Online with all my clients, but it doesn't mean you have to use QuickBooks Online. You can use, I always tell clients this, the bare minimum thing you did was get a separate business bank account, right? So that you had everything flowing in and out of this one thing that you could then dump into a Google sheet or something so that you can be aware of like what's coming and going. I think that's a huge one. And I think a lot of people will look at their balance and then they'll pay the bills or they'll pay their contractors or whatever. They're not really looking at the overall picture. And I think they get intimidated by what is a profit and loss or an income statement, same thing. But if you take that information and you just look at your what's coming in and what's going out, and even if you go a little more detailed and figure out what's coming in this month and going out this month, so you can start to see, it might be, especially like photographers, like there's a busy season, right? So you could start planning your busy season so that in your slow season it equals out. I mean, there's so much more strategy that can happen. So that's definitely some way of making sure that you are tracking this stuff. It does not have to be all in QuickBooks and you're this amazing bookkeeper. You'll get there. You can, and I will tell you, anyone can be taught these things, but it's starting somewhere. And a lot of people push it under the bed. I think the next thing is really understanding that, I don't know, I kind of want to say that Facebook groups are great, but everybody in a Facebook group is usually like similar to you, and they're just telling you what they know. That is not gospel. Like, I have a Facebook group just so I can answer accounting questions, because I will be in so many different creative groups, and people, I love, they give each other advice, but a lot of it's like the telephone game. So really going to a source and really finding a place to understand the things that you need to know for your particular situation in your business, because it's not always the same. And I guess the third thing would be something is when we onboard new clients, there's always kind of a list of stuff that we're like, okay, we see them doing incorrectly, or it looks like they're not really sure. And it's just understanding what you can deduct, what you can't deduct. There's a lot of misunderstanding. Like, for example, I'll just say, like, donations are not a business expense, like, ever, unless you're a corporation. And people are like, what? I'm like, those are personal expenses that, they can be business, right? Then that's a draw. So explaining all that kind of stuff. And I just think there's a lot of misinformation when it comes to my topic in a lot of creative worlds. And so just trying to create a place where people can get the right answers, because when you have the wrong answer and you get like 2 years down, and then the IRS, then you're like, what? So
right.
They're not always so nice, so.
Right. Yes. I've heard actually from my friends that the state is actually worse than the IRS, at least in Colorado.
And because you have to realize, like, the states, I didn't even personally realize this till I was doing some research for some sales tax stuff. And it's like, most of the states, I think it's like close to 80 or 85% of whatever they have revenue wise is from sales tax and state tax. So that is their only huge resource of income. So you bet they're on it. As soon as you mess up or you're wrong or you didn't report something, they're there.
That's crazy. Well, and so much of it is so confusing. Like you said, I see, especially so in Colorado, our sales tax is different based on where the goods are delivered. So if someone downloads their images in one city, it's different than another city. Yep. It's so frustrating. And you're so right about getting answers from the experts, because, like, I don't know anything about this. I have someone take care of that for me.
It's different in every state. It's different in every state, and things are changing because there's so much online commerce happening, that there's new laws that states they're putting in place. So it's like, if you're selling in this state, even if you don't live here, we want a piece of it because it's fair, right? You're making money. So there is definitely a lot. I can share with you that I am working on a free state-by-state sales tax guide for photographers.
Oh my gosh.
It's my passion project right now. So I'm going through all the states and kind of creating, so exactly when you need to be charging and what you do and how you register, because it's confusing. And what we do a lot of times with confusing things is we sort of just ignore them.
That would be me.
Because they go away. They do. Eventually. Till they come back 10 times, tenfold.
They come back so much worse too.
It is definitely, I even do that with some things, and I'm like, you got to just deal with it. You got to eat the frog,
Yes. Yeah. Today's episode is brought to you by the new and improved mentoring program with Business Straight Up. If you are struggling with something specific in your business and you need help that is personalized, I am excited to announce that I have officially added mentoring one-on-one back into my business. So what the heck is mentoring? Well, the nice part is that it's custom based on you and your needs for your business. I can help you with marketing or sales or branding and so many aspects of running a business. Mentoring is really part education, part accountability, and part inspiration. I want you to walk away from a mentoring session with me feeling on top of things, with clarity on where you want to go and how to get there and the steps to take to actually make it happen. If coaching or mentoring is something that you have been thinking about, it is time to get some details to see if we're a good fit. Go to businessstraightup.com/mentoring to learn more and reach out so that we can start working together. I can't wait to see where you go in your business in 2021. Yes. Oh my gosh. For me personally, and I've seen this with my students as well, I am able to make money. I can market, I can book, like it's not a problem, but managing the money once it's here is not something I have traditionally been very good at. I'm working on it. What are some common money blocks that you see for business owners?
Well, I think the biggest thing comes with like the way they're structured. So most entrepreneurs and creatives are really just sole proprietors, and they're not sure how to pay themselves. So money comes into the business, but they still have a life and they still have a mortgage and they still have these things. And maybe they've taken it full time, but they're like, I come across clients all the time who've like just been putting it all in one account and they never touch it. They're like a lifetime savings there, but they're like, well, I just don't pay myself because I don't know what to do and I don't know where the taxes go. And So it's really just sort of starting to understand, I guess, and really, if you're a sole proprietor, most people listening will know that they are, because as soon as you take money for a service or a product, that's what you are. There's no registration. That's just what you are.
Yep.
If you filed LLC, you're still the same, but it's really starting to know how much money do you need to live your life? What do you, so then you actually can take this stuff and start backwards fixing those goals. Like, okay, so then I want to bring this much in a year from my business. Then how do I need to do that in a month? And what are my busy months? Because my slow months are going to be less. And really, like, I'm getting super excited, like visualizing this thing with my hands, you can't see, but like really stepping into the goals of like, then you have this empowerment too, because you're like, oh, wow, I'm already past that. Here we are this month and I've surpassed that goal. And it's so much easier than you think. And I think the more detail that you can see in your business, even like we talked about before, just getting organized and stuff, the more it will really help you start to understand that. I see a lot of that creatives, entrepreneurs in general, just get into this like making ends meet circle where they're like, okay, I love what I do. No one's bossing me around. I don't work for anyone else, but I just pay my bills. Like, I don't know. You can say for retirement, there's no rule that says like, you don't work for some big corporate company, you can't have a 401k. So there are self-employed like IRA plans, things you can start for your future. When you put money in your future, you can deduct it from this year's taxes. So wouldn't you rather put some in your future than give it all the IRS for no reason?
Absolutely.
So like, these are things I think that a lot of people just never even think about to the next step. So hopefully I'm creating some awareness that you have complete control and power over your money in your business. Like, I'm granting it to you right now. If you didn't think you have it, now you do.
Permission slip.
Yes.
I think that so many people just have this idea of, as long as I make what I need to live, then I'm fine. Like you said, this kind of status quo thing. But it's not just about paying your bills. What if you want to, and it's not always about like driving a Ferrari either. What if you wanted to start a charity? What if you wanted to impact someone else? There are so many other financial goals that can play a part in this as well.
Absolutely. But it's so hard if you don't look at any of it to ever really know where you can go or how do you get there. So I think it's like a lot of things where we don't want to look under the rug per se, but then once you do, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. So I think it's just ripping the Band-Aid off and really just taking a look and trying to get an understanding.
Yeah. Well, and I know for me, like so much of it was wrapped up in guilt. Like, why am I doing this? And once I let that go, I was able to just look at the numbers and know that they're not good. They're not bad. They're not other. They just are. And that's okay, because you can always change them.
Yep. I think it's like Amy Porterfield that says like, and I don't know if she said it, but she may have got it from someone else, but I love it. She's always like, a decision is a decision. You just make it and you move on. And you guess what? You can make another one later.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, oh. It's like, just because you made this one now, and it's like that progress over perfection. Just keep moving. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. And I think with money, it's the same thing. And you'll learn your lessons. You'll figure out, okay, I'm broke. I need to figure this out. I need to do this differently. But you're right. Freeing. There is money. But I think too, a lot of people have a money mindset because they were brought up a certain way. I know for myself, money is very much like tied to happiness in the way I was brought up. And so it's like, money, 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 money. And then I'm working until I can't think, and it's like, what is the point of all this if I have no fulfillment? So I think that business is so much more than money, even though it's weird to say. It's like the overall outcome and why people do it, but it's not. You do it to have a richer life.
Well, and when you're in alignment with what you really love anyway, the money kind of comes in secondary in ways that you never thought were possible.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because when you are doing what you love and you are serving the people that you are meant to be serving and you feel on fire in your heart and you're just so excited for it, money comes in the door.
It is. It's true. Crazy. It's like, it's kind of like the more you fight things, the gripping the sand, it all slips through your fingers because you're trying to create something you think is supposed to be a certain way. But it all goes back to aligning with being authentically you, doing what you stand for, attracting others who feel the same way, sharing what you have with them, and you learn from them too. It's absolutely, it's a whole like ecosystem.
Yes. One of the biggest money blocks that I see for business owners is not believing in the value of their work and what they offer to the world. What tips do you have for someone who might be struggling with this?
This is actually kind of like near and dear to my heart because I have a long, story of where I began. I was working for, I'll tell you my story a little bit. I had foot surgery and I was on something called, I think, Lortab. I think that's what
Mm-hmm.
it's called. It's like, pain pill you shouldn't take very long. But I just remember thinking at that time, I hated my corporate job. I
Mm-hmm.
was on leave for this surgery and I was like, I can't go back. I can't go back. So I went through and I was like, I am going to figure out everything I possibly can. And then my husband
Mm-hmm.
had just started a new job and got health insurance. And I was like, this is it. I'm jumping off the deep
Yes.
end. There's only about 3 things in my life that I am overthinker. And I just did these things. Like one is marrying him, crazy. I didn't know him very, very long. One is just leaving my job and starting a business that didn't even exist.
Yeah.
And the other was moving across country from Seattle to New York with like nothing. We sold it all on Craigslist, but it's the 3 things that have made my life like literally everything I could ask for.
Yeah.
But so I'm in this job and I'm like, I can't go back there. It's horrible. And so I come up with this whole plan. I end up having somebody on Craigslist. I had an interview on Craigslist, not recommended. Sent my husband a text. I'm like, if I don't come home, here's the address of where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. And he was looking for someone to bring into projects, like as an accountant. So this would be like a baby step, right?
Yeah.
That lasted very shortly because he was like paying like this little hourly wage. And I realized I started to realize like how much was possible for me to do things on my own. But I think that you start to realize that what you give people is this part of yourself and it's priceless. It really is. And I think the right clients and the people you work with, the money doesn't exist anymore. Like, I mean, there are definitely people that I do business with for my business where I don't even think of money working with them because everything they stand for, all the ways that they make my life and my business richer, it doesn't even matter, And so I think that we tend to think, well, I'm new. I see a lot of photographers are like, oh, I'm just getting started and I don't know. And they're scared. And, first thing you got to consider is like, how much time are you putting into this type of thing?
Yes.
Photographers don't always think about the fact that yes, you go and you shoot for an hour, but you edit and you do all these other things. Just because someone doesn't see you do them doesn't mean they're not valuable.
Right. That's still your expertise.
Yeah. And it's like, so really trying to figure out that I think is a starting place, but I also think it's important to note that you can change at any time. Yeah. And I did this with my business. As I brought on different clients, I sort of experimented with different pricings or proposal amounts I sent to see. And there really is a little bit of experimentation that goes in it. But then once you start connecting with the right people, I don't think money becomes a thing anymore. They're like, no, I just want you and I don't care. Take all my money, And I think
it's not the comparison list anymore. Yeah. That's gone.
Yeah. And nobody else. And this is the other thing that's sort of on that same thing as I've realized, because a lot of people will say to me, because I'm an accountant and there isn't a lot of people that do what I do, how I do it with like a creatives, but I am noticing a lot of people in the creative industry. They're like, oh, everybody does everything for creatives now. But you know what? No one can do what you do like you. There's nobody that can do it. And yes, maybe it's totally different than how she does it like her. But the people that come to you want you to do it like you. And you might do the same thing, but she does it like her and you do it like you. And that's what they want. Like when you realize that you have no competition.
There is no competition.
You become like, you really do appreciate everyone, even everyone around you. It's an interesting thing. And especially as a woman, we just tend to be like,
we are conditioned for that. Yes. There's so many things behind that. We are just taught to compare ourselves, right?
Totally.
And there is no comparison. There isn't. For someone who's like listening to this and they're overwhelmed by all the possibilities, personally, I found that planning a 90-day year helps so much. Yeah. So whether you do a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, I do 90 days just so I can change things quickly because we talked about making the decision. You can always change it. Yeah. How can finances play into reaching those goals and play a part in those goals?
Well, I think just kind of I think a lot of people don't even set financial goals. I mean, even myself for a long time didn't set financial goals. I'm like, what's the thing coming in? Yeah. Oh, yes. I want to make sure I meet it. But you know what? It's funny. I don't remember who it was, but recently I heard somebody talking about, and it might've been weight loss or something, but talking about, we set these big goals and then we're always disappointed we don't get there. But the point is, when you set a big goal, you reach further than you would when you set the little one. And even if you don't make the big goal, you probably surpass that little one you were thinking of by stretching that far. So not meeting the goal does not change or like mean anything, I think, because
it's the same, like results.
You're still growing. As long as you're reaching for something, you are growing. And it like this year for me is been all about the like perfection needs to go in the garbage, and I'm getting there better, slowly but surely. But it's interesting when you really how much progress you really start to make when you start believing progress counts.
Yes.
Like we're all like, oh, if it's not there and it's
Yes.
not perfect, progress doesn't count.
Yes.
So
and the results are not who you are. Like separating, again, our self-worth from the results. Okay, you didn't make the goal. That doesn't mean you're a miserable failure, loser human being.
Look at the person you became in the process.
Exactly. It's just amazing to me how much people will beat themselves up. And I did the same thing too when they don't reach a goal. I'm like, well, did you at least move forward a little bit? Cool.
Or do you usually, when you don't reach the goal, you still somehow look at it and go, wait, but I did that. And I didn't know I had that in me, Yes, exactly. Yeah.
You said something to me that really struck me, and I want to speak to that a little bit. You said, I want you to work with someone you love and have a relationship with someone who knows your life and your business.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that part of the reason that my finances have been soul sucking in the past is because I have dealt with some very frustrating individuals in finances and some very judgmental people too, because like I said, I don't know how to manage it when it comes in, and I want to learn, but as soon as someone like chastises me, I'm done. That's it. And that makes an already draining process for me even worse. What should someone look for when it comes to a CPA or a bookkeeper, fiduciaries, all of these weird terms? What are the red flags? What should they look for? How do they find the right person?
So I think this is a hard one because this industry is interesting. I am definitely in a lot of circles with these kinds of people. And I am always kind of like, someone will say, are you going to the QuickBooks, expo? And I'm like, no, I think I'd rather go to like a photography expo, like where my people are, because that's who I really relate to.
Yeah.
I think you just really need to, I don't think there's anything wrong with talking to multiple different people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a phone conversation can give you the vibe of somebody so much, to figure out if that person would really fit your needs. But a lot of this industry is very like talk over your head, and I don't like it, and I don't roll that way. And I feel like I don't even know if I consider myself in this industry sometimes, because I'm like, I'm here to teach the stuff that I know, because I am part creative, and this allows me to like see in the creative world and still be an accountant, but it's really finding somebody who understands your business. I have heard so many times, and it kind of goes to what we talked about earlier, like the money empowerment thing and just having other people handle it. And I hate to say this, but like I've heard a lot of like men CPAs that like discount photography, like, oh, it's just a hobby. I'm like, bitch, she makes 6 figures. What are you talking about? Right. And so like I get these clients who are so not beaten down, but almost like I don't even want to ask a question, because every time I ask, it's like, oh, that's just a hobby, or it doesn't matter. Like, because I'm like, this is ridiculous. First of all, I hate that. Yes. So, and I think that plays into that whole mindset of money. And when you try, you get like thumped in the head. So, but it's really just, I think, talking to them on the phone. And I don't know anymore. I'm so disconnected from like the CPA office world. If you can talk to people, if you have to like how you can, because a lot of times you never talk to that person again. And that's not how I handle things. But it's like finding somebody, and maybe it's Googling, okay? Like Googling to find somebody who works with your industry. I'm sure you could find somebody that way, and then talking to people. I think that talking is crucial. Sometimes, in the first 5 minutes of a conversation, if you're like, this personality does not work with mine, and then it's okay. They're for someone else, or not for you. It doesn't make you bad or them bad. Find someone that you can feel is going to help you get empowered with your money and with your business.
You probably hear or read all the time on podcasts and courses, various communities, that you need to do certain things or have specific processes in place to help with your business. Whether it's lead follow-up, email templates, or workflow, all of this can be so overwhelming, right? Especially when you don't know where to start. I have spent 15 years creating processes that are repeatable for my own business. And last year, I finally launched my online shop where my email templates, workflows, and questionnaires are all available for purchase. And just for my amazing podcast listeners, I have a special code available for you for 10% off of any product on the shop. Just head over to shopwithbrooke.com. Don't forget the E on the end of my name, and use the code BSU podcast like Business Straight Up Podcast, to get 10% off of any product, anything on the shop. Don't let overwhelm or all of the shoulds take precious hours of your time that you could spend with your family or doing what you really love. Check out the templates and pre-done systems that you can copy and paste and implement at shopwithbrooke.com to start rocking your marketing and your business today. Definitely. I think that we as women have a superpower in that too. Like you can tell. Your intuition will tell you immediately.
And you try to deny it, and then 6 months later, you're like, see, I knew it, but I didn't listen.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The older I get, the more I listen to that over and over again, because it's that little voice. It's like, I don't think this is a good fit, but so-and-so recommended them. No, I don't think so. But they have this rating. They have these reviews. It doesn't matter. If it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit.
Yeah, you definitely will feel it.
Absolutely. So let's talk about retirement. When you work for a company, they will often have a 401k, something like that, so that you're at least reminded about it every year. Because when you do the open enrollment, they're like, do you want to put some in? And even if you say no, you still get that reminder. I know that when I was in my 20s, it was like so far away. I'm like, I'm never going to retire. But I turned 40 this year. And now I'm thinking, man, I wish I would have started earlier. What are some things that business owners can do to set themselves up for success in retirement without a company constantly tapping on their shoulder to remind them of that contribution?
So one of the biggest things I think maybe even people aren't aware of is there are self-employed retirement accounts. I'm not a genius in any of these things. I do have somebody I refer people to just because I know it's so important that they get to this point. And I know the tax benefits, but it's like, I can't set this up and do these things for them, but there's a simple plan. So it's SIMPLE. So that's for self-employed. It means something. And it's a little different than an SEP. So they both stand for something. I probably sound totally ignorant, but I have gone from a SEP to a simple. That's because I have employees. So one of them is more beneficial if you have employees. One of them is more beneficial if it's just you, because you can put a lot more away. You can get like a bigger amount put away that you can't with the other plans. But you can Google those. You can find companies that offer those kinds of plans and talk to them. And guess what? Little by little, a little becomes a lot. Like I know I'm turning 40 next year. And you know what? I only started my retirement a few years ago, and I kept thinking, oh, this is not going to make a difference. And little by little, I don't even look at it anymore. I am set up like an S corporation. So I am an LLC, and I'm on payroll in my company. So every time I pay myself, that's a deduction to my business. And then my business matches me for my retirement. So I don't see that money till once a month when I send all the money over. And I'm like, oh, well, it started to come together a little bit there. Like, I might be able to survive for 5 years after I retire. Like, and the thing is, like, I think we all just discount that. And I think it's easy to do. And you're right. Like when you're at like a corporate place, they do remind you and you start to feel like, well, everybody else is doing it. But I think a lot of people who are self-employed don't realize they can do it. And the plans are better. Like you can put more in. There's a lot more that we can do for ourselves, but a lot of people don't. So, and it's a tax deduction. So, I mean, it's really
say that 20 times because I should have done that.
It's important. Like you can put, and it's not dollar for dollar, but you can put some money in your future or you can, and save some money in taxes now, or you can pay it all now to the IRS and never see a penny of it ever again.
Right.
So I opt for the seeing some of it later.
Yes. Well, and I think that someone shared with me that, so first of all, there's people that do this specifically for self-employed people.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, and I can give you a name if you want after. I have somebody that handles mine now because I was working with like a big company and I'm like, this is not what I want because this company works like me and my clients. They have an online portal. I work with the same guy every time. He is, I think you have to look for people licensed in various states, but he's licensed in most of the states. And he's also like me. I'm an IRS enrolled agent, which just means that I took an exam to the IRS for taxes, business tax, personal tax, and ethics, and I keep my credentials up. So like a CPA does a 4-part exam, which one tiny part of that's tax. So CPAs are like attorneys. They could be anything unless they specialize in something. So I decided after I started doing the CPA, I would become the EA, which means I know all the taxes because that's what I need to know for my clients. He too is an EA, which means he understands all the tax law while he's helping you set up your plan, which you won't find in a lot of like, Vanguard or places where you call 1-800 number to talk to a different person every time. So it's nice to do business with other businesses that run their business like you run your business,
Yes. Well, and just being able to talk to the same person every time is so
Yes.
valuable
And
to
they get
me.
to know you and your life and what's going on. And that's how, and I do the same thing, but this helps my clients, but it also helps me help them better because I know more. Like I'm like, oh, I
Yes.
can think of something that might benefit them because I know them at that level. I think
Yes.
it used to be like that back in the day when accountants were, when this whole thing started, but it's not like
Before
that
800
now.
numbers. I think someone shared with me that you can actually put in money after the year is done
Yes,
into
all the way
retirement
up
as
until
well.
tax day.
Oh my gosh, that's
And people do not
amazing.
realize that. And if you file an extension, you can
Hmm.
do it until you file your extension.
Oh, wow. Even if you make the money in the next year?
I am not sure, but I don't think that they have a way of knowing that.
That's true. That's true. Because if it's just sitting in your account, no one would know.
That's the true. That's true. I will tell you, I
Hmm.
don't know everything, but I will tell people as I have resources to figure that out. I can't only store so many amazing things in my brain at once, but
Right.
yeah, but that's some people do. You're right. That's about the only thing you can do after 12/31 to save yourself. And you
Yes.
can actually start the plan. Like if you're like,
Oh,
I
after the
did it.
fact?
True story. I did mine like this. I was like, oh shit, I owe so much money in that year of $25,000. I was like,
Yep.
this is what I did, guys. I went and I took $10,000 off a credit card and I created an IRA plan for myself and took that tax bill down to half, paid back my credit card, ended up paying way less. This sounds really complicated, but I was also really stressed out and freaking out. But this
And
is
you
what
got
you
the
can do.
miles.
Yes, you can totally start that plan and figure it all out even after the end of the year before you file your tax return so that you, and I have
Wow.
got a handful of clients who I'm like, let's do this right now. Like just
Yeah.
do this now, you'll thank me.
Yeah.
And now they're already in it and now they're contributing to it every month and it's just, it's that first time of everything where you're like a little stressed out and crazy, but there are definitely some options, but not a lot after the
Yes.
last day of the year. So
Oh my gosh. Well, what is one small thing that like a creative business owner listening right now, they're like, okay, I'm going to take a step. I'm going to move forward. What is one thing that they can do today to start moving towards that financial freedom and the literacy that comes with owning a business?
I want to say understanding their business structure. Like that is so
Meaning
important.
like S corp,
Like, yeah,
LLC,
like
all that stuff.
what is a sole proprietor? What is a DBA? What is LLC? What is S corporation? How does it serve me? There are times when it's makes sense to move to the next thing. And when do you
Mm-hmm.
do that? But it is important. Sole proprietor is very basic. It's what anyone is who takes money
Mm-hmm.
for a product or service. And if you make more than $400 doing that, you need to file a Schedule C. You are, congratulations, now a self-employed individual. You have earned income. And I think
Yes.
there's a lot of stuff where people are like, oh, I didn't make any money or I lost money, so I don't need to file. You do. Or how much is enough to even be considered a business? A penny. Like earned income, if you think they don't want to know about it, you're wrong. They want to know about all of it. But
Right.
really, it's just understanding that. And I do have a small like boot camp for it, and I'm going to be coming out with something I think a lot more substantial.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about this stuff in my Facebook group on lives because this is the thing that comes up. It's always a sole proprietor LLC.
Mm-hmm.
LLC is just limited liability on a state level.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't affect your check taxes. It doesn't change anything about your business. It just adds the LLC, and then
Mm-hmm.
you should get a tax ID. So I think it's
Yes.
trying to get, I think as soon as any entrepreneur wraps their head around that a little bit, they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay. And then they understand and they also know what to look for next steps for growth to when. And I think that sets a foundation to understand, to really care and start to understand the rest of it because it can seem
Yes.
confusing because there's different rules for all of those. And so
Yes.
it's sort of like, it's like, forget it. I don't even care. I'm going to keep not knowing.
Yes. Well, and so many people think that just because they're doing it at $20 a pop, $50 a pop,
Mhm.
$100 a pop, that they don't have to report these things just
Mhm.
because they don't have the LLC set up or they don't have
Right.
insurance, which are completely separate conversations to have.
Yes.
But
Yes.
so many people think that they're exempt from this stuff just because they're not making a lot, and that is not the case.
Right. And then the thing is, even let's say that you only made $400, but maybe you spent six. So now you do have a loss, but you still report it. But that's going to help you on your
Yes.
taxes because
Yes.
of all the other stuff, right? Because you're a whole person. You are the business you have going, but you're also your spouse's income and you might have children. There's a whole scenario for you. And there's all these variables and use it to your advantage. You leverage that
Absolutely.
loss into something. So I
Yes.
think a
And
lot of times people discount themselves at all. Like they don't count because they didn't make $1 million. And that is not true.
right. Well, and even if you don't understand it, like for me personally, I don't understand it. I know how to look at my numbers, I know how
Mhm.
to look at them, but I have professionals that I love and
Mhm.
trust and I work
And
with.
that's
So
important.
Yeah, so they don't make the decisions for me, but they are the ones who say, this is the information. What would you like me to do?
Mhm.
And that is so important because then I can go, well, what does this mean? And
Yes.
having those people that can just help you understand it all is so important.
And that's true. And it's just like any entrepreneurial thing. When you start to realize that you can't know everything and you can't wear all the hats if you ever want to live a long time, right?
Yes.
It's out, you can burn yourself
Yes.
out. It's like the moment that I realized, like, I used to be a website designer and I love that stuff, but like, I can say, here's what I want and have a list and ideas and maybe a Canva layout. And I can have someone who can do it much better than me and quicker than me, put it together.
Yes.
When you
Oh my
start to
gosh.
realize
Yes.
that, you can grow your business and you can gain sanity.
Yes.
And realize that you have good people doing things for you.
Well, and it doesn't cost as much as most people think.
Yes.
Like getting that help is not, you're not hiring someone at a full-time salary.
And the time value of money, of your sanity and time to do your
Yes.
job so you can grow your business because you're trying to go over here and learn WordPress, you know?
Right? Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so true. This is amazing information. I try to be really transparent with all of my students. There are some things that I'm really good at. I could teach in my sleep. I can tell you detail by detail, and some things that I'm still working on, and finances are absolutely one that I'm constantly learning more about. Thank you so much for being here today,
You
Tiffany.
are welcome. Thank you for having me.
I love these conversations. And like the last year and a half, I've been learning more and more about money and especially how it affects women in particular. And I just so appreciate having you here. Where can people learn more about you, what you do, connect with you, contact you?
Probably just my website is probably where the most information is. And so that's www.bastianaccounting.com. And I'll spell it because I picked the longest URL in existence. BASTIAN accounting. So bastianaccounting.com.
Yes.
And I have a bunch of free courses and a lot of free stuff on there. I have that sales tax guide coming. There's a link in there for my free Facebook group too, where I can I love having these little things where I just go on, I do lives in there. I try to do them like once a week to really just answer any questions on these things, because there is so much floating around. There's just so much people. It's a telephone game, and I get, and I love people asking questions. I just hate when they get half the right answer, you know? And then
Absolutely. And for anyone listening, we will definitely have her information in the show notes. So if you don't remember the spelling, we will definitely link to her in the show notes. So to all of the listeners and awesome business owners, photographers that have joined us today, thank you so much for listening, putting us into your earbuds, into your car stereo, wherever you are. I am truly honored that you press play to spend this time with Tiffany and I. If you are someone that wants to help other people and you know someone who can use this information, maybe someone is struggling right now, please forward this episode over to them. And if you are like, oh my gosh, this content was amazing, how can I thank you? I would love it if you would head on over to iTunes and leave a review. I know you probably hear this from podcasts all the time, and it seems so small, but those reviews can mean so much to us. It helps me know how I can better serve you, and it helps me to have amazing guests like Tiffany. So hit pause now if you want to. Leave a review. And if you screenshot your review before you submit it and email it on over to hello@businessstraightup.com, I have a free gift for you. Please, please, please leave those reviews so that we can continue helping you every week with this content. Thank you so much for your time, Tiffany. I'm so glad we could connect today.
Yes, thank you so much.
And thank you to everyone listening. I want to know, here's your action, your marching orders. What is one small thing that you are going to do this week to start moving forward and becoming financially literate and on top of things in your business? Let me know in the community at businessstraightup.com/community. Because you know what? It's time to start stepping into the CEO role of your business, to be in the know when it comes to your finances so that you can grow even more. You know where you're at and you can go further. I can't wait to see what you do with your business. You have the power to impact the world, and I am so excited to see what you do with it. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening to Business Straight Up. I'm so glad that you could join us today. Check out the show notes for this and all of the episodes at businessstraightuppodcast.com. And I can't wait to talk with you again. Have a great day.